Should you be contributing to your 401k, IRA, or Roth first? Any ideas? Hi, I'm Garrett Ray, financial planner here at the Wealth Guardians and the Ray Financial Group.
And I'm Brice Payne, and you've entered the VELT, the Wealth Guardians video series on all things pertaining to retirement planning. In this episode, we're going to talk about the different types of accounts that are out there that you can contribute towards your retirement for. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of those accounts. We're going to talk about the conventional wisdom that talks about what order you should be contributing to and how much in each bucket. And then we're going to talk about things to consider that might turn that conventional wisdom on its head. Now, if you take a minute, you'll see those like and subscribe buttons down below the screen there. If you want to go ahead and click on one of those, you'll be in a position to catch all the future episodes of The Vault with Doug, Garrett, and myself when we put them out. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Garrett?
All right. So, Brice, you talked about, there's multiple different accounts out there. We got 401ks, IRAs, Roths. What are these different types of accounts? Just give people a rundown and what they're all about.
Okay, so speaking in broad terms, there's 4 types of accounts that you can contribute to in any realm. This is pertaining to retirement as well. You have 401ks or employer-sponsored plans. You have IRAs. You have Roths, and then you have brokerage accounts, which in the business we refer to as non-qualified accounts. Okay. There are a lot of subcategories out there like SEP IRAs or small business 401ks, right, or trust accounts. Those all just fall under one of those 4 accounts that we just went over.
Okay. So now that we know the main 4 categories of accounts that people contribute towards retirement, name some of the pros and cons of each of these accounts for us, so the audience has an idea.
Yeah, there's always a good side and there's always a trade-off side to each of the kind of accounts. So your employer-sponsored plans or 401ks, they are pre-tax monies. That's a good thing. That means that you get to subtract whatever contribution you made that year from your earned income. So you're delaying the taxes on it. That's nice.
Okay.
Usually, in most 401ks, the employer's making a match. So right, if you put in a certain percentage, they're going to put in a certain percentage alongside you. If you don't put that in, you don't get anything from the employer. So that's usually a positive. You have loan options in 401ks that the other accounts don't tend to provide. So if going down the future you think you might need a loan, then having a 401k might be a benefit to you. 401ks or employer-sponsored plans are creditor-proof. So if you think that situation might rear its head for you in the future and you want to put monies into a creditor-proof type of account where they can't come after it, 401k might be your answer for that. Okay. Now, there's some trade-offs to 401k accounts or employer-sponsored plans. You can't touch the monies until you're 59 and a half. Okay. You have, generally speaking, pretty limited investment options inside of 401k. 10, 20, 30 or so mutual funds is
pretty much all you get.
Pretty much all you get in most 401k plans. And then the distributions, when that does come time for you to take distributions from your 401k or your employer-sponsored plan, you have to pay taxes on 100% of whatever you're taking out. So that's a 401k. Okay. Now, IRAs are similar in many aspects. They are also pre-tax monies, just like the 401k. However, you have unlimited investment options inside an IRA. While 401k generally has you able to contribute to mutual funds, and that's about it, IRAs, you could contribute to cryptocurrency, real estate, precious metals, options trading, whatever else is out there on the horizon.
The world's your oyster.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely a benefit for an IRA. Again, you can't touch the monies until you're 59 and a half. Yep. So make sure if you're contributing any monies to your IRAs that they are monies that you would not need until you're 59 and a half. And then just like the 401ks, the distributions are 100% taxable. Yep. Okay, so that's your IRA. Roth accounts. Roth accounts are kind of the opposite of IRAs. You do not get a tax distribution in the year that you put the money in there, but however much it grows, it's 100% tax-free. That's a huge plus.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For Roth. So a lot of people like Roth because you put $100,000 in, it's after-tax money that you're putting in, but if it grows to $200,000, you can take all $200,000 of that out and not pay a penny in taxes on it, at least the way the laws are written on the day that we're recording this. But again, 59 and a half, that's the trade-off. Can't touch the monies until you're 59 and a half. Additionally, something that makes Roths unique is that, at least for the growth of the account, you can't touch any of the growth until the Roth has been open for 5 years. Right. So be aware of that when you're contributing to a Roth. Better to get into a Roth in most cases earlier on, so you've already got that timeline taken care of.
And Brice, just to be clear about the 401k, the traditional IRA, and even the Roth, when we're saying you can't touch the money until 59 and a half, that's not technically true. You can touch it early, but then you're going to be hit with a 10% penalty on top of that.
On top of the tax.
So it's a huge hurdle. Yeah.
Yes. So it's not that you can't touch it, as Garrett says, it's that you're not supposed to touch it.
Yeah, it's not very wise.
If you don't want to have penalties, don't touch it.
That's right.
But you can technically touch it, yes.
Okay.
And then lastly, there's the brokerage account, or what we call non-qualified accounts. Brokerage accounts are after-tax monies that do not grow tax-free. There is no limit to how much you contribute to them. So that's really nice, because IRAs and Roths have limits as to how much you can contribute. Even 401ks have limits. Yeah. They are not a tax shelter. So anytime that you are buying or selling, anytime that you're selling stocks or mutual funds inside that, you have to pay taxes on the gains the year that you made that sale. That's not the case with IRAs and Roths. You can buy and sell all the time inside the IRA, as long as you're not taking a technical distribution from it. It's not a taxable event. So brokerage accounts are taxable in that event, but boy, they are nice because there's no limit to them.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Okay? So that's the pros and cons of the different types of accounts that are out there.
Okay. So now that we understand that, Brice, you had mentioned that if one, has some exposure or some experience in all four types of accounts, there is some conventional wisdom on how one, quote unquote, should contribute, or the order they should contribute into those different accounts. Why don't you share what the conventional wisdom out there is?
And I'm going to be very careful to say that we are not giving you advice here, because after we're done talking about the conventional wisdom, we're going to talk about things to consider that are specific to your case that might turn that conventional wisdom on its head, or have you doing something other than the conventional wisdom. So this is just a baseline. I also want to say that if you're out there searching YouTube and the internet for some little video like this that tells you specifically what is the best order to take monies out of or to contribute monies into, that video doesn't exist, because it's different for everybody, and that video could not possibly be customized for you. So just take this with a grain of salt. Conventional wisdom wise, what you would want to do is first bucket to fill is your 401k bucket up to the employer match.
Okay,
Make sure you're getting that.
Yeah, so if my employer says they'll match 100% up to 4% of my salary, I would contribute 4%. My employer is going to kick in an additional 4%. So now suddenly 8% of my total salary is going into this 401k.
Exactly. That's the number one thing that we should be filling up, is to get that free money from your employer.
Okay.
Now, if you still have money after filling up to the match, the next thing that you would want to do is start contributing to either your IRA or your Roth account.
Okay.
That's usually a limit, like $7,500, $8,000, somewhere in that right now. The reason that you would do that instead of just continuing to contribute to your 401k is because you have better investment options and oftentimes lower fees in IRAs and Roth accounts. So let's fill up that bucket to whatever the maximum is there.
Okay.
Now, if you still have money after that you want to keep contributing to your retirement, great, power to you. Then let's go back to the 401k and we'll fill that bucket up to the match.
Okay, absolutely to the max.
IRS tells you based on your earnings what that max is, and your 401k custodian or the plan administrator will help you figure out how much that max is, so that you're not breaking any IRS rules.
Okay.
Now, let's say that you've now filled up your IRA. Your 401k up to the match, you filled up your IRA or your Roth, and now you've gone back to your 401k and filled it up to the maximum limit, and you still have extra monies that you want to contribute to your retirement. Awesome. You're doing great. Let's at that turn go to a brokerage account, non-qualified account.
Okay.
Again, no limits to that. So now all the rest of the money, that whatever you can contribute that year, you can contribute to a brokerage account. You don't have to worry about any limits.
Okay.
$10 million, whatever, sky's the limit for you. That is the conventional wisdom of the order that you would want to fill up these accounts.
Okay. So now that we understand the conventional wisdom, you had mentioned there may be some things that might get us thinking differently. What are some things to consider that might change that conventional wisdom?
Okay. So the first thing that we want to consider is age expectancy. If you tell your advisor, who generally knows how to, your financial planner, your retirement planner, your investment advisor, should know about how to weigh each of these different circumstances appropriately and help you figure out which bucket you fill up in which order and to what degree. Age expectancy. If you live to be, if you're going to have a shorter lifespan in retirement or a particularly long one, that's going to play a factor in which buckets you fill up first and to what degree.
Sure.
That's the first one. Second one, the years until you plan to use the funds. somebody who is planning on retiring at 62 versus somebody who has their own businesses, plans on working until 75, that's going to play a role in deciding how much buckets, each of those buckets gets filled up and in which order.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is, do you have other forms of income in retirement? Okay. Why is that important? Because if you have other forms of income in retirement, that is going to be increasing your taxable income in retirement.
You're going up in that. You're increasing your income tax bracket.
Correct.
Yep.
So if you've already got income in retirement and say you turn 73 years old and the government is forcing you to take RMDs
out of your IRA
account, that's just adding more. So maybe it would have been a good decision for you not to have focused so much on your IRAs and focused more on Roth accounts.
Sure.
And by the way, there are Roth 401ks out there that fell under the category of Roth accounts. So that's another one. Another question that you would want to consider is how full each bucket is in comparison to the other ones. So for example, if you're watching this video and you haven't contributed to any, you're just entering the workforce, you haven't opened a 401k, you haven't opened an IRA, you haven't opened a Roth or a brokerage account yet, you're starting from scratch, great, welcome to the grid. But our answer to you might be different than somebody who's already got $500,000 in a 401k. So what order you're filling up the bucket might be different than somebody who's already got a pretty handsome amount collected inside one of the accounts. So that's going to take into effect what your advisor is going to tell you.
Okay.
How much of your funds you're going to be needing in retirement. What size of distributions are you going to be taking out? That's going to play a role into it as well. Just kind of in the same way of what other forms of income are you going to have in retirement. So we have to consider that. And then what future tax brackets are going to look like. I'm a financial planner. Garrett's a financial planner. We have no idea what the future tax brackets are going to look like. You could ask a member of Congress today. They probably have no idea what the Congress of 5 years from now might have to say about what tax bracket should be, or whatever administration is in charge at that time. So tax brackets is a big kind of black swan what if out there. That weighs very heavily into whether or not you should be contributing into an IRA or a Roth these days. That's just something we don't know, though.
Right.
But if you have an inkling, if we asked you, do you think taxes are going to go up in the future, and you raise your hand, yes, all right, that's going to play a role as what you're going to do to somebody who said, no, I don't think taxes are going to go up in the future.
Right.
All right. And the last thing that you would want to consider is, if I pass away before using all of my monies, who's going to be inheriting them? Is it my kids? They are not a tax-free entity.
Right.
But maybe I don't have kids, and all of my monies, whatever's left, is going to be going to a charity of my choice, my church, say. Well, churches receive monies tax-free regardless of what kind of monies they are.
Yep,
so if you spend all of your time collecting into tax-free accounts like Roths, and then you end up passing away and giving it to a church, well, a church would have received that tax-free anyway.
Regardless.
So you basically took some huge tax hits for years at the expense for your church that didn't need it in the first place. So that's going to play a factor into it. What kind of monies do you want somebody to be inheriting? Those 6-7 bits of information there could turn the conventional wisdom on its head as far as what buckets you fill up in what order and how big that bucket is.
Yeah. Well said, Brice.
Thank you. Anything to add, Garrett?
No, I think you covered it.
All right. So again, that was just giving you an idea of the different types of buckets that are out there, or accounts that are out there for you to utilize for retirement purposes, what order of filling those buckets up, and to what degree really comes down to your specific situation. We just went over some conventional wisdom for you, but don't take that as a definitive this is written in stone type of thing. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Vault. Again, I'll bring your attention to these like and subscribe buttons down below there. Go ahead and click on those if you want to catch future episodes of The Vault with Doug, Garrett, and myself. I'm Brice Payne.
And I'm Garrett Ray.
And this has been The Vault.